after 8 o'clock. Good to have you with us this morning. And we are pleased to welcome in studio energy specialist or energy goddess.
Yes, let's get it right.
Yes. Marita Noon. How are you? It's so good to have you with us.
Great. I'm wonderful. I'm pleased to be with you. It's been like, a year or so since I've been on your show?
Something like that.
Way too long.
Well, Dan and I were trying to recall, and it seems like, didn't you go to both conventions this year?
I did, yes. Well, in 2012, I went to both, yes.
So it was before that.
How long?
You were here.
Well, and that was September, late August, early September. Republican was last week of August. Democrat was first week of December. Or September, I mean.
Yeah, so that
was a fun time. That was a very fun time. I went as media to both events.
Yeah, I bet that was interesting.
It was very interesting, yeah.
So who puts on a better show in person? I mean, it seems to me that the Republicans had it so staged. There wasn't a moment of scheduled, rehearsed. That's what it seemed like. And then the Democrats, I have to say, I didn't see that much of their convention.
Well, sadly, neither did I.
Oh, really?
No, seriously, I did not ever go into the arena at the Democrat convention while the actual arena part was taking place.
Really?
I did radio interviews. I was at parties. I went to a lot of parties because I didn't realize how many parties there are at all these things. So both of them, I mostly did a lot of parties where I interacted with people. Mm-hmm. And I actually hardly went into the main arena at the Republican event as well, although I did watch some of it. I watched Susana Martinez, Governor Martinez.
Yes.
I watched her from the press booth.
Did a great job.
And Condoleezza Rice, I was there that night from the press booth.
She's just a smart woman.
Yes.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah, so it was, and that night at the Republican convention, there was a lot of energy and buzz in the room that you could feel even from the press booth, which is way, 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 way high up there.
Yeah, in the North 40.
Yeah, and so you're looking, everybody looks kind of microscopic.
Yeah.
But it was really, to me, the most interesting was the difference in the street. Mm-hmm. Of course, I didn't go to the arena, so I didn't really have that experience. But the difference in the tone in the street. The people at the Republican convention were serious. They were basically well-dressed. They were well-groomed. They were polite. In general, it was a very respectful and organized feel. Mm-hmm. The Democrat convention, on the other hand, on the street, was like a freak show.
Really?
I mean, it really was. There were just really odd people with odd signs, and there's one, I can't remember what it was at the moment because I didn't plan to talk about this, but there was one that was, I know, it said something like, sluts vote.
Oh, I think I remember hearing something
That was
about
the strangest thing to me, and I thought, I suppose they do, but I never thought of it as a voting block in court.
Really?
And they had buttons on saying proudly,
Is this all relating back to the birth control?
Yeah, it is. So I mean, that was just gives you a tone of the difference of. I mean, I took pictures and posted them on my Facebook page at the time of just kind of some of the craziness that was going on at the Democrat convention. And then the night that Bill Clinton was speaking, I was on the street, and the panic in the people rushing like lemmings to get to the arena.
They love him.
And it was. I mean,
you know what? I probably would be one of those lemmings because though I disagree with many of his personal moral choices, he is charismatic,
yes, no question.
He's got a huge knowledge base. I mean, I would like to see him speak in person.
Yeah. So
I'd like to feel that is what he has tangible, because I think you remember, Dan, when Obama was here in town a few years ago, maybe more than a few now, and he was over at Rio Rancho High School. I was so waiting for that moment of, I see it. I see what he's got. And
did it happen?
It didn't happen for me, and I was very disappointed. And I thought, well, now maybe it's because I've seen him on TV a lot that it didn't translate. But no,
I think it translates. Let me tell you a personal story with Bill Clinton. I've not met him, but my mother has.
Oh, really?
And my mother is, she and I have both been members of the National Speakers Association for many, many years. And my mother has received from that organization the highest honors that they bestow on speakers. Well, one time the National Speakers Association convention was in Washington, D.C. And the group of the elite speakers, of which my mother is part and I am not, had a special, someone arranged for an appointment at the White House with Bill Clinton.
Cool.
So this handful of them, maybe 20, went to the White House, and they met like, I believe it was on the lawn. He was on the way to the helicopter, and so, but he went down the line and shook hands with all these elite speaker types. And my mother was in the crowd. And my mother had read, and I can't remember because, again, I didn't plan to tell this story, but she had read, and I believe it was novelist Judith Krantz, if I recall correctly. Maybe some of your listeners can call in and correct me if I'm wrong on this, because I don't really recall.
Oh, they will.
But but whoever it was said at the time that when Bill Clinton shakes your hand, it is a full body experience. So as Bill Clinton went down the line shaking hands with everyone, my mother, who's very much like me, says to him, I want one of those full body experience handshakes.
Oh my gosh.
And Bill Clinton, she says, he reached out to her and he put his hand on her neck and he leaned into her ear and he said to her, I was so embarrassed when she said that. And my mother said, it really was like a full body. There's a magnetism about him that was definitely there, shaking his hand. And he just reached into her and kind of grabbed her.
Oh, Lord.
And pulled her close. I mean, she was 65 at the time, so we're not talking.
Right, but still.
But there was definitely this kind of instant buzz that you felt in his presence.
Yeah.
And so, that you're right about that. People were at the Democrat convention rushing in to...
but not so much Prez.
No, I don't... Well, it was about Clinton.
Yeah.
The tone on the street, just the vibe of the people.
Do you think that Hillary's in it for 16 then?
I think so. I mean, I don't see anyone that can knock her out.
I don't think so
on
either,
the Democrat
but on the hand, we said that before, and then Obama came along.
That's true. I mean, you just never know, and maybe we can hope that someone such as Obama rises from the Republican side, someone that we're not even looking at or thinking of.
Let's hope
right now. I mean, the buzz that I hear is that it will not be a senator. It will be someone who is not in the fray that has happened in the last. It'll be someone who's a governor. Not that can say I wasn't there.
Right. We're talking to energy goddess Marita Noon this morning. If you'd like to follow along on her website, it's energymakesamericagreat.org. And then another website that you offer a column each week.
Yes, I have a weekly column that I write on news-based energy issues, and they're actually published all over the internet and in 5 different newspapers in the state of New Mexico. Not the Albuquerque Journal, but I'm in the Farmington Daily Times. I am in the Roswell Daily Record, the Artesia Daily Press, and the Carlsbad Current Argus, and the Midland Reporter Telegram, which I realize isn't really New Mexico, but it's it's kind of is.
Now, do you think that there's more interest and publication down south because people are more focused on energy issues in southern New Mexico?
Rather than in Albuquerque? I think it's just maybe if everybody contacted Dan Herrera at the Albuquerque Journal and said, we think you should run Marita's column every week. I've offered it to him, and he basically has told me, we'll publish you once a quarter.
Who's Dan Herrera?
He is the editor of the editorial page at the Albuquerque Journal.
Okay. So all of you that like to be proactive and would like to hear more from Marita, you just get a hold of Dan Herrera at the Albuquerque Journal. He's the editor of the editorial page, and make mention of the fact that you'd like to see Marita's work more often.
Yeah, we would love that. That would be great.
It would.
Yeah, can I mention just a tangent? This is a total tangent, but it's based on your T-shirt and your conversation.
Yeah.
Before, I was, of course, listening to you on my way in from the East Mountains where I live.
Yes.
And you're talking about spay and neutering your pet. And I sort of have, I'm not highly politically correct. And so my dog is not neutered.
Oh, my.
But but because there's such an emphasis on spaying and neutering your pet, there might be listeners who need a Schnauzer stud, and my dog is never missed. He's a beautiful dog, and he enjoys it, and I'd like to find him another cheap French poodle or whatever.
Oh, that is so funny.
I'm advertising for my dog.
A dating service here.
Yes.
We've got a doggy dating service.
I love it. Okay, so this really needs to be a promo, I think.
He makes beautiful babies. He makes really beautiful babies.
Then you can put the babies in the next Terry Q and Travelin' Jack's Pet Friends book.
Yes.
Which we'll be taking submissions for after the first of the year, because I don't know if you're aware of the fact that our little Terry Q and Travelin' Jack's Pet Friends book has been nominated. It's a finalist for the big award in its category from the New Mexico and Arizona Book Club.
Well, cool. How exciting.
I'm very excited.
Well, we need to make that happen for sure.
Absolutely. I'm telling you what, let's see, is the 10th or the 15th? 15th is when we'll find out, because I'm scheduled to be a presenter at the awards, and then we'll see if it makes it from just finalist to winner. We hope so.
Yeah, that's very fun.
And
very fun.
For those folks who haven't had a chance to pick up that book, remember all the proceeds do benefit the animal rescue organizations here in New Mexico, and it's terryqpets.com, TERRIEQ pets.com. Enough with the shameless self-promotion.
You might tell where someone could pick this book up at.
Well, that's true. You can find it at Treasure House and Bookworks and Amazon.com as well.
Okay.
Not to mention LPD Publishing.
Treasure House is in Old Town.
Yes, it is.
Uh-huh.
And they are faithful listeners, in fact.
Wonderful.
Both John and his father. So, Town Hall Magazine, you're actually a contributor to, Marita.
Yes. I'm a regular contributor every single Sunday morning. My new column is up, except for somehow today, while I'm on the air with you to talk about it, the editor did not get it posted last night.
Isn't that just a Murphy's Law?
Yeah, it is. So I assume my new column, which I titled, he always often retitles, I titled Mining Policy Designed to Benefit Our Own, Mighty Rare. And it's about rare earths. And the reason I wrote on this week is that on October 29th, my birthday.
Happy birthday.
The Senate put out a new legislation. It hasn't passed the Senate yet, but it's out of committee. It's got 17 sponsors, it's got 9 Republican sponsors, 8 Democrat sponsors. Real bipartisanship is rare these days, and this particular bill has bipartisan support, which is unusual. And the bill is called the Critical Minerals Policy Act of 2013. And this bill came out of committee, or was introduced. It didn't come out of committee, it was introduced on October 29th. And the purpose of this bill is to expedite rare earth mining. It's one of the key issues of this bill, is to expedite rare earth elements mining in the country. But we have actually a lot of rare earth minerals in the state of New Mexico, and most people don't give rare earth minerals a thought, but they're in everything modern, such as cell phones and computers, and the smart glass that we all count on has rare earth minerals in it. But it's also a vital weapon in defense. It's vital to our defense weaponry, and currently China has about 85%. It's actually recently dropped from 95% to 85%, near monopoly on rare earth elements. And this is a really bad thing, because it parallels in a way OPEC, which was the column I wrote 2 weeks ago for the 40th anniversary of OPEC. It somewhat parallels OPEC because the Middle East uses control of oil to manipulate the market, and really as a control mechanism. And China is doing the same thing with rare earth elements, and neither one are becoming more friendly to the United States.
No.
And so this is a scary thing to have. We're becoming less and less dependent on Middle Eastern oil, which is a great thing. And I hope we'll talk about that because it's actually rather interesting. And that 1973, as we were talking about during the break, when the Arab oil embargo happened back in 1973, October 17th, 1973.
Who can forget it?
We were importing. Well, a lot of people are probably too young to remember it,
Yeah,
but
that's
sadly,
true.
all of us in this room do.
Yeah.
Remember it well.
We remember it, yeah.
Yes. I mean, and in reality, when the embargo happened, I was days away from turning 16. And so my entire driving life has been impacted by the Arab oil embargo.
Wow, that's
And-
interesting.
Yeah. So I spoke in Corpus Christi, Texas, on my birthday, October 29th, and said, while I was in Corpus, 40 years ago today, I was getting my driver's license, and
Interesting story to that. When that happened, I passed a gas station that had a big sign, come in and get tank full.
Yes.
So I went in and I told the guy, fill the gas tank, and he said, you got to be kidding me. He said, I don't give anybody a full tank. Yeah, we're rationing this stuff. He says, you can have like so many gallons, and that's it.
yeah, many of those gas
We-
stations had a 10-gallon limit.
Oh yeah, and we take that for granted now that you can just go out and go in and fill up your tank. But it was really, we would get up, get a cup of coffee, go sit in line at the gas
Prepare
station.
to wait.
Yes,
Prepare to
and
wait.
what you may or may not realize, and again, I was 16 years old at the time. I wasn't following the news. I just knew what was impacting my life, and I didn't really realize it till I went back and did the research to write my column on it, is that the reason that the Arab oil embargo happened is that the United States supported Israel in the Yom Kippur War. And so that is why the oil embargo, why they did this, was to punish the United States for supporting Israel in that war. So you realize they were using this really oil as a weapon. Well, again, back to the rare earths issue briefly, China can do that same thing to us. And basically they already are, because but they haven't said no exports, but they've cut way back on their exports, not just to the United States, but to anywhere, because they're protecting their own self-interest, which is kind of the title of my column, where I got that mining policy designed to benefit our own. Imagine such a thing.
What a concept.
We wouldn't do that in the United States. We should. We should be doing it in the United States. And that's what this bill, the Critical Minerals Policy Act, is about, is that we need to be protecting the United States and therefore developing our assets. But in the oil embargo of 73, we at that time were importing 35% of our oil that we use in this country was imported from the Middle East.
Versus what do we import now?
Well, this is the interesting number, 35%.
Really?
Yes, but you got to look at what the facts are and what happened between then and now and what has happened to the imports and the exports.